Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Welcome to World Zakat Forum webinar series. I'm Dita Anggraini as moderator today, and it's my privilege to welcoming the honorable speakers and all of you, the audience of these discussions. And thank you for joining us in this special session of the discussion regarding strategies to strengthen the global Zakah collaborations. And it will be a very interesting discussion today. Today we will have two fabulous speakers here. The first one is Dr. Saleh Ali Alawaji as the former advisor to Council of Minister of Saudi Arabia. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Saleh. How are you?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am fine. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. And the second one, we will have Mr. Kamal Mohamed Hamid as manager of Sudanese Zakah Chamber. And before we started the discussion today, let me explain a bit about how we will run these discussions. The first, we will have an explanation from the speakers, and after we hear the perspective of the speakers, we will have a Q&A session, and the question will be picked from the YouTube channel, and for all of you that want to ask to the speakers, you can type the question on the live chat box on the YouTube. So is it clear, Mr. Dr. Saleh? I'm sorry?
Yes, clear.
Okay.
I'm just closing the camera to the bandwidth.
Okay. And let's start the discussion that talking about the pandemic crisis and then the global economic landscape that has been crushed by the pandemic. It is thus the number of asnaf assuredly has been increasing in the world, and Zakah institutions plays a critical role to navigate Zakah distribution that can best address who are both directly and indirectly victimized by COVID-19. And in other side, we know that Islamic social finance sector broadly comprises by the traditional Islamic institutions based on philanthropy sectors such as zakah and sedekah and akwaf, and also the contemporary Islamic microfinance institutions that aim at alleviating the poverty. And so, in your opinion, Dr. Saleh, how far the collaboration between the philanthropy sector, such as zakah, akwaf, and sedekah, and the microfinance can be realized in this condition to overcome the pandemic impact? So, the time is yours, Dr. Saleh.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran al-Kareem, إن هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة وأنا ربكم فاعبدون. والرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم said that المؤمنون في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم كمثل الجسد الواحد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد بالسهر والحمى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advised us actually, or commanded us, that this is a single ummah. So if this ummah is united and exchange the experiences and exchange any residual of income in case that a brother or a sister or a society or a smaller community are facing a trouble, then it's the command that we have to take care of each other. And this is the real meaning of the brotherhood of Muslims. And at the same time, the Rasulullah ﷺ gave us the example that we are like one body. If an organ is facing a pain or facing a disease, then the rest of the body is losing sleep over it and having a fever, just to indicate that the whole body is one unit. This pandemic, COVID-19, has given us lots of lessons that we have to learn and grasp in order to deal with the days and years to come. What has happened has given us the chance to look back and see whether what we are doing is right, or that it has to be altered in order to deal with such crisis. This is a crisis that is over the whole world. It has not singled out in any country or any community. Our role is to think and set a strategy for future instances. Now, with COVID-19, the problem was it prevailed over the whole society. So givers, who are the zakat givers, were suffering. The traders, the business people, the companies, those people who give zakat were suffering because you know that the markets fall. The demand was on non-essential products was falling. People were focusing on two major commodities or major needs, which were the basic ones, food and medicine. And they were seeking like refuge from the spread of the pandemic. And this is not only on a single country or group of countries. This was a global crisis where every country started to think about how to protect its people. Now, in this pandemic, and in particular, particularly in the Islamic countries, where we used to have, and we were also urging people to have their zakat collected and distributed. And I'm not limiting this to zakat. All the philanthropic activities, including sadaqat and revenues from awqaf, these were also affected because people were not in a good, business people especially, were not in a good position to give. Therefore, it is important, it's extremely important for us today to look for the future and how are we going to deal with such pandemic, maybe, God forbids, any wars, world wars. Nothing is in a distance or away from what we should be looking for. So in case something happens in the future, other than this COVID-19, and by the way, COVID-19 is still around and it has not gone as long as we don't have a vaccine for it. And maybe there is no even a medication for it as we speak now. But we have to consider all types of unexpected and normal like life events. We have to think of what could happen and how the poor and needy sector or class of the society are going to survive. Because when there is a scarcity and there is less of material or food and basic needs available, how are we going to protect our societies? Using the example of a body, a single body, if one part of it is suffering and in pain, how are we going to support that part? I don't know if you want us to have like an exchange of thoughts, or you want me to continue? I
Yes.
have few I have few ideas, but I don't know how are you going to moderate here. Is there another speaker that want to intervene, or you want me to continue?
Um, Firstly, I want to say welcome to Mr. Kamal. Can you hear us, Mr.? And then, okay, for Dr. Saleh, it is interesting that you say that the Muslim, we are united as a body, and when one kind of our part of body is sick, and the other part of body will feel that sick, and all type of unexpected and also uncertain condition in the future. For example, in facing this pandemic, the Zakat institution also get suffered. What do you think, and what should the Zakat institution do to survive in this condition of pandemic?
Well, this is actually what I was going to say. If we are trying to draw our strategies to strengthen the global zakat collaboration and learn from each other, we have to have few steps that we take into consideration. One of them is that zakat is paid annually. So in case that we feel that this year the need is heavy and it's more than more than what we expected, then we can ask the donors or the givers of zakah or the zakat payers to pay in advance next year's zakat as they expected. And this has happened in our Islamic history because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that life is not going to be the same all the time. So in such instances where we suffer or we may suffer, we can ask for future zakat to be paid in advance, and maybe for 1 year or even more than that, especially with the lower paid zakat because of the decline of business activities. So the profits and the growth of the business value of businessmen and companies, it means that the zakat that they are going to pay for, let's say, 2020 is going to be, for example, 70% or even 50% of what was paid in 2019. And despite of like the more demand and the more need amongst the fragile class of the society, especially those who are gaining or earning their pay day to day, especially laborers, people that earn their income based on the business activity and economic activity. Their need is going to be, of course, more as a class and maybe less as an individual. And on the other hand, the payers are going to have less zakat to be paid. So this is one of the strategies that we have to exchange and maybe discuss paying zakat in advance for years to come, maybe next year or the year after. And that is an estimation. It's going to be an estimation from the side of the zakat payers. And every year they do some sort of reviewing the paid zakat and pay the balance or discount the balance if they paid more than they're supposed to pay. So this is one important thing that we have to consider is the advancement or the advance payment of zakat for years to come. And I will leave now the floor for another speaker if to add something and come back to you with more ideas that we can adopt during such hard times. And I'm not limiting that to this COVID-19 pandemic. This has to be considered in every instance, God forbids, that requires such attention to the fragile classes of our Muslim communities and society as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saleh. So, from your explanation, so do you agree that we need more campaign or socialization about the future zakat payment for the sociality, for the society? I mean, so how do the zakat institution can socialize that kind of policy or the new strategy?
Yes, yes, of course, we have to join like our efforts through the masjids, imams of masjids, through our through the social media, through the official media. We have to notify the society, that especially the business community and companies that pay zakat, that you can pay zakat in advance for years to come, just to encounter such hard times that the lower class or the fragile class of the society is facing. And by this we are protecting this lower class or the needy families from suffering, or from any actions or activities they may do or act due to their need. So we have to fulfill their basic needs by making them or their such needs sufficient or suffice their needs, rather than letting them alone, which might take them to some criminal acts, or maybe stealing or doing anything that is not good for the society as a whole. So protecting them by providing them with the basic needs. That's what most of them need. It's because they left their jobs, maybe their head of households are not working anymore with the sluggishness of the economy. So here comes the solidarity that we wish to have and see in our societies. So it's very important that we use all the means, all possible means, through government channels, social media, so through our mosques, our communities, community leaders, and spread this amongst them, that it's as we are going through these hard times, you have and you're allowed by Sharia to pay for future zakat in advance.
All right, thank you, Dr. Saleh. And for information for the audience, we will still cannot connect to Mr. Kamal, and we will continue to discuss to Dr. Saleh, if you don't mind, Doctor. And yeah, recalling the recent studies or recent research from the BAZNAS Center of Strategic Studies in Indonesia, that several zakat institution has increasing in their collection during early 3 months of pandemic, but another one has been collapsed and has been cannot survive to face this pandemic. So what do you think, Dr. Saleh? How do how do the zakat institution can do for help another zakat institution to survive in this pandemic era? And also, how do we help another Zakat institution or another philanthropy sector to survive, to help people who needs in COVID-19?
Well, it's hard for the institutions. It's hard for the needy families. It is a hard time. So once a hard time prevails, it affects all parts or all classes or all sectors of the economy. But here comes some other excellent tool that we may rely on, which is relying on the volunteers to help. So we can also spread amongst our youth, especially with universities and colleges are closing down and many schools are closing down. We can use this unused probably power of the volunteers to go and, of course, taking all the measures, the measures of protecting themselves and others from spreading the COVID-19, using their masks and gloves and whatever the authorities, the health authorities are advising people to do, and try to help the needy families. First by looking after them, see what are their needs, and trying to minimize the cost of doing this through the Zakat institutions, because we know that Zakat institutions rely on full-time or part-time employees, and this is a cost by itself. So we can cut this cost and use alternatively the volunteers to do the job of either, if not collecting zakat, at least maybe collecting information and doing like some kind of surveys or surveillance, and trying to see where are the most needy communities, and notify such information to the institutions. By this, we use unused force to go and check on the families and reduce the cost, some of the administrative cost on the institutions by using their own staff, or by spending on their own staff. They might also cut the number of their full-time staff and turn them into like part-time, and use the volunteers to help. This is one of the maybe the tools that we need to encourage and use in such a time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saleh. Let me greet Mr. Kamal. Hello, Mr. Kamal. Can you hear us? Assalamualaikum, Mr. Kamal. All right. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Kamal. Can you hear us? Okay, perhaps there's still a connection problem. So we hope Mr. Kamal can join us in a fast way. And so, Dr. Saleh, this pandemic, COVID-19, is coming in an era of digital transformation also. That what do you think about this digital utilization for Zakat institution to survive and to collaborate to each other to have surviving in this Zakat, for example, distribution or collection? What do you think about it, Mr.?
Well, today digitization and the usage of all types of modern technology is a necessity, and see what we are doing here for World Zakat Forum, how much we benefited out of this. We used to have like a single, maybe one or maybe more than one meetings and a single conference annually, and then we have several meetings, and the cost that used to be spent on such meetings was reduced significantly or maybe eliminated. As we do now such a webinar, this is an excellent tool that we have to rely on. And of course, we cannot single out such a tool, a very important tool. So today we can learn about the needy families, the areas that are like hit by natural disasters, by the people, the general people, the public. Today we learn about anything that happens, for example, in a very remote area, in just seconds, maybe a fraction of seconds. So people are having these devices, handheld devices, and through them they can video, they can picture, and they can send, and they can text. So this is one of the blessings that we have for the contemporary time that we have to use, especially for these like the services that are rendered by the Zakat institutions and the philanthropic institutions. So here you are bringing this to the discussion. It's very important. And if we link that to the earlier idea of using volunteers, we can only ask such volunteers to send us information on the needy families and their locations and their addresses, so we can reach out for them. It will help a lot in reducing the cost of going and surveying or surveillance, doing the surveillance over certain areas. So instead of going down to the field ourselves or the Zakat institutions with their own staff, they can get the benefit and the assistance of the volunteers who get the information from the field and help us to learn about the needy families. And on the same time, we can use such videos and pictures to convince Zakat payers and the donors to learn about the needy families and needy communities, and that could even encourage them to pay more. So it's an integration. We need to integrate all of brilliant ideas that come from the field and come from the different Zakat institutions by getting the actual and the real information from the field, and report that to the Zakat institutions, and Zakat institutions, they can take that also to the donors and to the Zakat payers to convince them and encourage them to pay maybe more, to pay in advance for future Zakat needs. This is actually it's a holistic effort that we need to do from different parties and different players in this field.
All right, thank you, Doctor. And first, I want to give information to the audience who want to ask the question to the speakers. You can type the question on the live chat box on the YouTube. And we are so sorry that Mr. Kamal is still can attend the webinar due to the internet connection problem. So yeah, I agree with your explanation, Dr. Saleh, that this digital transformation will strengthen the collaboration of Zakat activities, and also the Zakat, which is from distribution and collection. So in the next month, if I'm not mistaken, we will have World Zakat Forum annual meeting. Is it right, Doctor? So is there any spoiler to what kind of topics that will be or should be should be discussed in the annual meeting of World Zakat Forum, and what the resolution that should be taken from all the member of World Zakat Forum?
Well, I think it is the current pandemic, its impact, and how much is the damage that it caused to the businesses, and what do we expect in terms of revenues that Zakat institutions are expecting, and how are we going to make up for the differences. We're having, it's like a double whammy. It's actually a double hit. So the businesses are hit by the reduction of their revenues, and consequently the zakat paid, and on the same time the increase of the number of needy families, and like the needs of these asnaf. So the asnaf, their number may be increased and their need increased, and on the other hand, the payers, the taxpayer, the zakat payers, and the donors are not able to pay as they used to do in the past. So this was one of the suggestions, that they pay in advance for their future zakat, and this is one of the suggestions. We could have more like suggestions. And we need in the conference to exchange ideas. Maybe different countries, different communities have experienced or done some other maybe, or gone to some other solutions that they would share with us to learn from the experiences of our brother institutions, our different institutions, because cases may differ from one community or one country to another, but we certainly are going to learn from each other. This is probably the main theme of the conference, and we have also to discuss the lessons learned from this pandemic and its impact, and how are we going to deal with, God forbids, Allah forbids, future disasters, because this can be described as a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe where it hit all parts of the globe. So maybe with in the present time, at least in our ages, we have not faced such a global catastrophe, because none of us maybe lived the Second World War or some other major wars. But this is even worse than the war. We did not live like the pandemic that was in the Spanish flu war. So this is going to give us an excellent chance to discuss and try to anticipate what could happen. Nobody can read the future, but at least we prepare ourselves for the worst, and at the same time we make a dua that nothing bad happens. But we have to be prepared, where we can protect ourselves and our people from any impact. Most of our countries rely on imports. So when this pandemic spread, and there was it hit all joints of the economy, if you may. So sea lions were reduced maybe by, the ships and the sea lions were hit, and they were reduced by 40 or 50%. So this was having a bad hit on the countries that import. airlines almost stopped, all kinds of trade and supply chain were impacted. So many other things happened. This was like an example for what could happen, and maybe it's like a soft example for what could happen if anything major might take place, yani, God forbids, in the future. So we have to have, this is a good exercise that we went through, so we want to be prepared for anything in the future that might hit our societies. And how are we going to take care of each other? Going back to the hadith of the body, that if one part or one organ of it is in pain or sick, how are we going to, how the rest of the body is going to take care of it and be around it and try to heal it. So it's very important that the theme of the next forum and next conference has to be around this or the margins of this topic, which is the COVID-19 and similar catastrophes, and how are we going to deal with it and be like proactive, preparing ourselves and our institutions to combat the impact or the negative impact of such an instance.
All right, thank you, Doctor. And let me pick up the questions from the chat box from the audience at home. The question comes from Miss Nasar. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Saleh. Are there any changes to zakah collection in Saudi Arabia during this pandemic, especially because a lot of countries are facing the recession? And may we know whether there is a collaboration that can enhance the zakah collection during this difficult situation? Please answer the question, Dr. Saleh.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, the impact was overwhelming. And as I learned from my colleagues in the Gazette, that, and they have also announced this, they have given some what do you call it? They gave some more time. They gave longer time for people to pay, and they even worked on installations where a payment, if there are like any late payments that were not paid as zakat or earlier years, they gave them longer time. They have worked on also like giving some chance for them to pay later. And on the same time, the government, because the relation here between the zakat institution and the government is very close. So the difference is paid by the government. And now, if the zakat collected is paid like, let's say it's normally around 15 billion Saudi riyals. If the number is dropped, then the difference is going to be paid by the Treasury, by the Ministry of Finance. So the case here in Saudi Arabia is different than many other countries. The Social Security Department, which is following up with the needy families, they pay them like a fixed amount monthly that goes to their bank accounts. They have like an amount paid for the head of the family or the household, and then there is also a payment for each member of the family. and they are visited like twice a year to see if that family is like having more members or they have like better income, and they so the payment is monthly burden on the zakat institution. If the zakat institution is unable to make such payment to them monthly, the government pays the difference. And like for the last, at least the last maybe 10 years, the Ministry of Finance was making up for the difference. But the zakat collected was increasing, but has never reached to the point where it is fully sufficient as zakat collected paid to the needy families. So the difference was always there. But this year, I assume the difference was bigger because of the sluggishness of the economy. So the case here in Saudi is a bit different. So although the collection is lesser because of the pandemic, the amounts that reach to the recipients or the needy families are the same. They were not affected.
All right, thank you. And the next question is from Aidinanda, that sometimes it's hard to get in touch with youth around the world since zakah is not their concern for the young. And what do you think about it? And is there any strategy to make the youth realize about zakah and getting concerned on it as the part of their life?
Good question. Well, this is very, I mean, it's not the duty of the zakat institutions alone. Now, this is a campaign of awareness. And if you are selling some product that is used by, for example, by men or by women or by families, I mean, as a whole, you have to have your strategy of promoting that product, okay, to reach to the potential customer. Now, if we're talking about the youth and how they need to learn or how we need them to learn about zakat, we have to use the proper channels to reach to them. So what youth are today watching, for example? What are they following? Who are the people that they follow? What is the role of schools and colleges to make them learn about zakat? And zakat in Islam is not just it's not a donation as it is in other societies. Zakat in Islam is a ritual duty. It's ibadah. So paying zakat is like praying, and it's like fasting in Ramadan. So you have no choice if you are like a devout Muslim to pray and maybe fast, and you deny paying zakat. Then this is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So it's very important that they learn it, and they have to learn it from their families, from their schools, from their community. And we have also to use the modern channels like the social media, where most of the youth are turning and to follow to follow up with the news and the fads, if you may. You have to speak to them their language. Maybe some small or short videos that you show on some needy families and how some young man or young woman went to that family and donated or paid their zakat, and how much that impacted their life and their children. This is very important. And we have always to send the message that if you are a payer today, you may be a receiver tomorrow. So in Islam, the solidarity of Islam is that nobody knows what could happen in the future. You could be like, God forbids, subject of an accident and then you lose a limb or you get like crippled. And here you would imagine what could happen if your society or your community is solid and helping each other. All parts of the body now is looking after each other. So I'm not maybe an expert in the media or in the media messages, but we can turn to experts that can help us. And I have seen some videos, they were very impressive on maybe sending a message just through maybe a few seconds or maybe less than even sometimes a minute of a video that sends a message, very impressive messages. And youth today, I think they, in general, our youth in the Muslim communities are alhamdulillah, excellent, good people. And that may be due to the families that raised them, whether in the Muslim countries or in the Muslim communities in where they live in a larger countries. So it's very important. It's very important that you send the messages, but in the language that they understand, and through the means that they use and they look at. Now, if you make an advertisement today in a newspaper, in a local a local newspaper, who's going to look at it? Probably the people that are over maybe 50 years of age or 40 years of age. Things have changed. We have to be very flexible and live the change and be, and learn from the experiences of other countries, and on the same time be ahead of others. We don't want to come in the tail of the nations. We have to be proactive, use artificial intelligence, use all the means that are available today. And we are responsible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this knowledge to humanity, and we are part of this humanity, and we are responsible to take the latest technology and utilize it the right way for such noble purposes.
MashaAllah. All right, then, according to your opinion, to optimizing all channel, all technology to campaign the zakat to the young, so do you have, in Saudi Arabia, is there any concrete action from the collaboration between zakah institutions and the schools, for example, for introducing the zakah and for answering the knowledge of the youth about zakah?
Well, for the youth, what I just answered the earlier question, it's the same now. Today, youth in every part of the world are becoming the same, and their interests are the same, and probably the devices they use are the same, and maybe even the sites that they visit are the same. So it differs only by maybe by using the spoken language of that community or the youth of that community. So it's the same probably strategy can be used in the different countries, but with the using the languages that they understand. Again, for Saudi Arabia, as I told you, zakat goes to the needy families, but these needy families are defined by the social security. So all the zakat that is collected here in Saudi are directed to the social security. The social security is another department. It's under another ministry. So they have their own measures of, they look at the economic measures and the needs of the families and the needs of their children to live like a certain like level of life. They don't want them to go below it. So then the amounts that are paid to them are decided by the Social Security. Zakat is part of that. As I told you earlier, Zakat was never sufficient for so far to pay all their needs or all the amounts that are allocated to them or allotted to them, because they look in the Social Security, they look at their needs and try as much as they can to make such families closer to the level where they don't appear to be like very poor amongst their community. I don't know how to describe this, but they try to alleviate their level to be acceptable in terms of sorry, in terms of their like housing. They get the like medication and healthcare by through the public hospitals, but they get like winter. They call it winter support, school support, and they get housing as well if they are eligible for housing. And then the difference of what Zakat has collected and paid to them is paid from the Treasury, from the Ministry of Finance. So these people receive like fixed amounts, as I said earlier. So the Gazette, which is the General Authority of Zakat and Tax, they do their best to increase the collection and increase the amounts collected. And they were succeeding in doing this over the last few years until this COVID-19 hit, where many businesses went out of, I mean, many companies and business, like business establishments and their enterprises went out of business. And this, of course, affected the revenue that come from Zakat. So the government now, the burden on the government increased because they have to pay the difference. Because in other countries, what you collect as Zakat is what you distribute after you take the Zakat like administration cost. But here, it's different. I tried to explain this, and I hope that I have communicated it clearly to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Saleh. Unfortunately, the time is limiting us. And may I conclude this discussion that the Zakat, global Zakat collaboration should be strengthened to alleviate the poverty, to fight the pandemic impact, and also according to hadith of Rasulullah SAW, if one part of our body is sick or in pain, the rest of the body will take care of it or will heal of it. It's about the Muslim solidarity and also the Zakah institution solidarity. Thank you so much, Dr. Saleh, for your insightful explanation today. And for the audience, I have some informations that we will have the 4th International Zakat Conference or ICONS that will be held in October, in 7 to 8 October, and we will have a lot of speakers from several countries with their expertise, and it will be a insightful talk also in the plenary session of ICONS. So the further information, you can join our Instagram at Puskas BAZNAS or the website of the ICONS, www.iconsbaznas.com. So I think that's all. Thank you very much for Dr. Saleh. Hopefully this can be increasing our knowledge, our experience, and also the silaturahim. We hope the world getting better. And also thank you so much for the audience, for the enthusiasm, for asking the question to Dr. Saleh. Let's recite Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. And see you again in the next webinar series of World Zakat Forum. That's all from me. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا